Well, number 4. He expects our responsibility. He expects us to take the responsibility for our decisions. 2 Chronicles 35. This Josiah was such a good guy, but you know what? One day he woke up and he forgot to wait on the Lord. And look what happens. After all this, Josiah had prepared the temple. Necho, king of Egypt, came up to fight against Carchemish by the Euphrates, and Josiah went out against him. Now wait a minute. Did God ask Josiah to go out against Pharaoh Necho? No. Was Josiah a good guy? Yes. Do you think God wanted him to go out there and fight him? No. Read along. But he sent messengers to him saying, "What have I to do with you, king of Judah?" This is the king of Egypt. Telling the king of Judah, "Don't come after me." He says, "I haven't come against you this day. I've come against the house with which I have war. For God commanded me to make haste." You see, don't forget, God uses the nations of this world to accomplish His purposes. And this is a very interesting point in Scripture. And I've really spent a long time thinking about this. He says, "Refrain from meddling with God, who is with me, lest He destroy you." That was a word from the Lord to this king, Josiah. And guess what? Josiah, for some reason, had turned off his his receiver that day. Nevertheless, Josiah would not turn his face from him. He disguised himself so that he might fight with him. My goodness. I mean, this king said, "I'm not going to fight with you." God says, "I'm not going to fight with you. I don't want to fight with you." So he says, "Okay, I'm going to put on a disguise so you'll fight with me." See, just foolishness. So he might fight with him. He did not heed the words of Necho that were from the mouth of God. So he came to fight at the valley of Megiddo, and the archer shot King Josiah. And the king said to his servants, "Take me away, for I am severely wounded." And his servants therefore took him out of the chariot and put him in a second chariot that he had, and they brought him to Jerusalem, and he died. And all Judah and Jerusalem mourned for him. Look at verse 25. Jeremiah also lamented for Josiah. And to this day all the singing men and the singing women speak of Josiah in their lamentations. They made it a custom in Israel, and indeed they are written in the laments. Did you know part of the book of Lamentations is because this good king disobeyed God? You say, is that still operative today? Yes. Did you know there are Christians that resist and refuse what God says, and they do so to their death? God says, "Don't do that. Don't do that." And they persist in it, and they choose to disobey God, and they're no longer useful. God takes them out of the picture. That's a sober reminder that God expects us to be responsible for our decisions. Don't make decisions without consulting the Lord, and don't make decisions that fly directly in the face of God's revelation to us, His Word. Because God does not take that lightly, and we will be responsible for it. And I really think that in God's providence, that He had further work for Josiah, and Josiah cut short. Now you say, wait a minute, God knows the length of our life. Yes, God knows the length of our life, but Josiah precipitated in God's providence and in God's supernatural power and the elected decrees of God, he chose to disobey, and God killed him through this king. We won't go too deep because you can get drowned in that idea of the sovereignty of God. But you know what? He said, "Don't go." And he disobeyed, and God had to cut him off.